anybody, for the most part, depending on what state you in, you can go and purchase a firearm. If you don't have a metal detector at your school, you can literally take your firearm to school every single day and nobody will know. If a teacher was to go AWOL, if this was already in them and they have a firearm, it would have happened already. The fact that they passed a law to protect our children from the most vulnerable position that they can be in, and our argument is, well, what if the teacher goes crazy? We That hasn't happened. So you know what I'm saying? So
It's not
the
about what
argument,
they go crazy. It's about like when you're stressed in a high stress situation, you're going to make mistakes because you're not trained for it. I'm
I
not
agree.
I'm not saying you shouldn't have. I did say you should have them, but people have to be trained. The setting has to be real. People have to take it seriously. If they're not going to take it seriously, innocent kids are going to get hurt.
So the gun law, lawmakers in Tennessee passed a measure Tuesday, which was April the 23rd, that would allow school staff to carry concealed handguns on school grounds, sending the bill to the governor a year after a shooter opened fire and killed 6 people at a Nashville school. The Tennessee House cleared the legislation in a 68-28 vote. 4 Republicans joined Democrats in opposing the measure. The state Senate, which is also controlled by the GOP, passed the measure earlier this month. Kamala spoke out and said, arming teachers is not the solution. We know what actually works: universal background checks, red flag laws, safe storage, and assault weapon bans. Shame on extremists in the Tennessee legislature for sending more guns into our classrooms and failing to protect our children. All right, I'm going to go ahead and start with you first, Shan, since I know you're in the education field. How do you feel about that? You ready to go to school strap or what?
Don't give me a gun. No. That's what we have resource officers for. Most schools, at least here in Georgia, have a resource officer who is in the school. We actually at a high school have more than one. So I will allow them to handle that. I would not feel comfortable with teachers having firearm. No, that is a no-go for me. And plus, where will you keep it? Like, would it be somewhere where kids can, steal it? Like, maybe it'll be what a defibrillator is. I don't know what the idea is, but I have to vote it down. I don't think that it's a good look. Just put more resource officers in the building, like we do, and I think it should be fine. You don't have to give a gun to a student. And resource officers, we know what resource officers are. They're just police officers who are for the school. So.
All right, go ahead, Bruce. What are your thoughts about it, sir?
I don't understand how that's going to be useful. I'm just afraid that maybe a student and a teacher get into some confrontation. I've seen videos surface. Y'all can hear me, right?
Yeah.
When teachers are fighting against the students or students attacking a teacher, imagine the same setting, but the teacher has a handgun to defend themselves. So, like, what do? Like, they get beat up, they get assaulted, or are they allowed to protect themselves with a weapon? Or is the weapon specifically for somebody who comes in the school with a weapon? Like, so, like, there's some missing pieces that's gonna have to be detailed and understood. Like, when can I use my weapon? Am I using it just only to protect the students, or can I now use it to protect my life against students who may want to do some physical harm to me or even kill me? So, I want to see where that goes.
Okay. All right. What about you, Viz? You ready for teachers to come strapped?
I think this is the best decision they made in a while. I think that to not have a firearm in a school, in a soft zone, for anybody to walk in there with one and literally execute everybody in the building, that's silly. Now, as far as with how they'll do it, the only thing that what I did see is that whoever is going to get it, they will have to go through an endless amount of training, psychological backgrounds, all type of stuff. And what will make the most sense is that the firearm will be in the safe. I doubt that they'll have. I doubt that they'll have teachers walking around armed, just in case of something like that happening. Someone attacking them breaking up a fight, whatever the case may be. But the most logical thing would be, let's have this firearm in this part of the school, in this teacher's room, and this locked away. And the only way that you can get access to it is if, it's going up. So I think it's the best move that they can make.
Hey, Roof, I see you making them face expressions. What's going on?
I mean, it sounds like it sounds great that they're gonna be logical about it, but are we really trusting people that can't even get these people to stop sleeping with the students? Like a lot of these teachers don't have the right mental capacity. They're here for a paycheck. And a lot of them have a lot of biases against our children. So not until they start shooting our children will we see that this could be a problem, because they are going to always say they feel fear for their lives. And but I don't think it makes sense for a shooter to walk into school and nobody has a gun. Now our kids are not protected. So if they can, if they're going to say you can carry a gun, they're going to say you can carry it on your person. We know that, like, they're going to do it that way. Like, when they make a law, it's just kind of like in a nonsensical way. Like, it's not controlled. It's kind of like a win for one side on the extreme. But if it was like more like, okay, this is what you can do, these are all the regulations, that everybody got to follow the same rules, fine. But we know that some people are going to take it to the extreme and it might go the way we don't want it to go. So that's what has me worried. But yeah, the whole shooter walking through the school and nobody's carrying, it doesn't make sense to me.
All right, go ahead, Trev.
All right, so first thing we have to think about is, why are they doing this, right? What motivates them to do that? And what they explained is that, these school shooters, they're a problem, right? So we have to deal with the problem. The resource officers and all, that's cool and everything, but we saw what happened. What was that, Texas? Where they just cowered up and didn't want to even do nothing. It was useless in that particular instance, right? So I don't think it should be mandatory for all teachers to, but if you elect to, then you should be able to. And, like Ruth was saying, there's no practical way to have it in a safe. It has to be on your person. I don't know who is into like home protection and everything, but listen, mine is always cocked. It's always one in the chamber. I'm ready to go at all times, right? It's on you. It has to be on your person. You can't put it in a safe. People panic. You put biometrics on it. Sometimes they fail. You have to get a code. And that statement, when somebody threw one of the things pointed at you, you can't play those games. You have it on your person. And what they explained was concealed. It has concealed. So it's supposed to be on your person, but just concealed so you can't see it. And I don't feel like there's anything wrong with normalizing that. We trust these individuals to educate and sometimes indoctrinate our children. Hey, if they're going to serve as protection, why not? It's safer than none of them, right? And to be honest, we just don't have the resources to hire 1 million security guards that are armed. Those men are expensive. If a teacher is willing to do that with their current salary, most of y'all don't want to pay the taxes to pay the difference for all these security peoples. So we may as well just let them do it. Of course, I do agree that we're going to need extensive training, just like anywhere else. Just pretend they're in New Jersey and you'll see a bunch of extensive training before you can get what you're supposed to have with your Second Amendment right and utilize it responsibly. It's just going to be one of them things. And there's not going to be any situation where they will be allowed to defend themselves against a child. There's no way that anybody is going to allow that. That's not going to be part of the regulation. I can tell you that right now. You can't do that because they're children at the end of the day. So no one's ever going to pass a law that states that. But I will say that they should be able to protect themselves against an assailant by any means. It is what it is.
All right, go ahead, Cookie.
Hey y'all. So my whole thing about it is it's not much any fun when the rabbit got the gun type situation. So I think I think that I could go either way. And let me tell you why. It's because I work with people that I know for a fact I would not trust with a gun on campus. And then I work with people that I absolutely would trust with a gun on campus. So, but I'm 100% sure that in a situation where it's that somebody trying to set it off in the school, I would want to have my gun on campus. And the fact that they even have an option is good for them. The way law is set up, because the law is passed, it's up to the school districts how they want to implement or roll out um these new laws or these new regulations in their district, considering that they are state funded institutions. It's up to them how they want to implement it. It's not a free for all. It's not the wild wild west, and it definitely is something that will make somebody think twice before running up in a school with an AR-15.
Yeah, I'll say too. So it has to go. They 4 different people have to approve them. The principal, the who's over the principal,
A superintendent.
the superintendent, the police chief, and then I want to say like the mayor or something like that. Like all 4 of these different people is going to have to approve it. I'm pretty sure out of the 4, at least the police chief is going to look at the candidate and see, okay, this is a 40-year-old white woman that's 5'2" and 100 pounds. Absolutely not. We're not going to give her a gun. Compared to somebody that looks like they're actually able-bodied to handle it in whatever the situation may arise, knowing that they have a concealed firearm on them. I don't think that they're just going to give it just to anybody. I'm pretty sure that they're going to make sure that the right person has it, and the people that don't need it won't.
Wouldn't that be discrimination if you just said a woman can't have it?
So
I think everybody should have it. It's the ultimate equalizer. You just train them how to use it. There's certain ones that you can have if you got yourself a little 9, a little 38. There's certain things that you can have that's not going to give a lot of recoil, that you'll be able to handle. They come in all form factors. Everybody should be able to have it, because if you have that one vulnerable person, that's the weakest link. So that person should be able to protect their classroom too.
Go ahead, Shan.
Someone like Cookie. Look, I don't trust everybody in the building with a gun. I don't want just guns floating around in the building. No, we can't do that. But I do think that, kind of like we have first responders, there are certain teachers who have been designated as the first responder. If something were to go down, a kid needed to, the defibrillator, or they needed CPR, there are certain people who are designed to help with that, right? So maybe we can have a task of people, because we have retired military people who are teachers. We have so many people with solid backgrounds who could possibly be those people that nobody knows about, but they could be specially trained. Their background could be like a little bit more extensive, and then they maybe can, trust those individuals. But to give it to every teacher, not in my school. Maybe. But my school, because we got people coming straight out of college who are teaching, and I'm not saying anything's wrong with that. It's just there's so many different levels to this, especially, and then even with, I know somebody had said, and this is taking it kind of off the, but even when it comes to those regular, we just had our drill, right? Even when it comes to that, to me, should be practiced with teachers. I know you want to get the kids involved. This is what you do, but and that may work from elementary school, because especially elementary kids need to learn what to do. But I feel like I'm teaching the perpetrator how to, because it be them.
Yeah.
It's usually a kid at the school.
So this
So
the
now
corner
he
Miss
going.
Jackson's class gonna be
Right.
in. Like what?
So Shan, I got a question for you. You said that you on Cookie's side as far as everybody not being able to. You don't trust everybody carrying a gun. Would you trust yourself?
I wouldn't want it. I wouldn't want that duty, but I would trust myself. I know I wouldn't harm a child. You know, if I would take it in. I know that would be extra responsibility on my plate because I would take it very serious. So I would not want it personally, but if I had to, I know I would step to the occasion. Absolutely. But I can't say, I don't know. So educators are good at teaching, right? That to me is a different level of a skill that, I mean, can they aim? I mean, so many things I would assume would go into carrying a gun. Besides, you know, some people shake, they anxiety. Like, no, I'm sorry. It's
yeah, but just keep in mind, somebody at your school on that campus may not think y'all might be qualified to carry.
Oh, that's fine. That's why I said only certain people, like if you have a military background, most schools have that teacher who's a retired, he came into education, he or she. Most schools have an ROTC program, so those people have backgrounds. Most people are in the building. They're the right people in the building. You just have to find out who they are. Mostly every school, elementary on up, has a person, a few people in the building who may fit a great, you know, they may have the criteria needed to carry on that position if it were, you know, a thing. But I would not just say everybody.
I got you. Ruth, I see your hand. Let me get to Nelson first and then get right back to you. Go ahead, Nelson. What are your thoughts about this?
Yeah, I don't think it's going to do anything. I don't think it's a good idea. I think most schools already have school resource officers. So I'm cool with having somebody that's already been trained that kind of knows how to handle themselves. But most schools need to update their lockdown protocols. And that includes updating the types of doors that they have, how the locks operate. So that way, when something does happen and that alarm sounds that tells you what kind of a drill you're in, students know and teachers know to run for the first room and get in there. When you look at a lot of these schools and they do their active shooter drills, they literally just walk through it. You still see people skipping down the hallways, going to the bathroom. Like, it's not taken seriously. So when the real thing happens, nobody knows what to do. So I think we need to take a look at updating protocols first, and then making sure that they got the type of doors that lock securely to where you can't, you know, shoot the lock off or do something or be able to kick the door in. Take those simple steps first before telling the teacher that they got to take, you know, their matters into their own hands. And then all it's going to take is that one teacher that feels like there's a threat and goes and does something. All it's going to take is shoot a black kid or something like that. And, you know, now it's going to be a you know, narrative is going to start getting put out there. Like it just takes that one person that messes things up. So I don't agree with it.
All right, go ahead, Ruth.
So yeah, I think more importantly, like the Army wouldn't go in with just everybody have a gun. They would have a plan, a strategy, drills. So somebody qualified that is experienced and all this should have a certain kind of protocol to tighten it up, and people should know what's going on. So I do agree. The plan is more important than everybody having a gun, because people really have mental health issues. Like, I don't know if you notice, like, people don't be right in the head sometimes. They still could do their job and teach. But like you said, like, if something happens, they might start hurting innocent people. They might not know how to react. Everybody might look like the enemy to them. So you just really never know. And the other thing is, if you start bringing guns in for the teachers, the kids that already carry guns and sneaking them in already, they're going to feel like it's okay as well. So that's another thing we have to consider. So they'll feel like it's fine too. So are you going to take out the detectors for those who have it, or put them in, or like how's that going to work? So they just have to be more prepared for these things.
The argument of that these teachers, what if a teacher loses it or something like that? I think that's not even a real argument. Anybody, for the most part, depending on what state you're in, you can go and purchase a firearm. if you don't have a metal detector at your school, you can literally take your firearm to school every single day and nobody will know. If a teacher was to go AWOL, if this was already in them and they have a firearm, it would have happened already. The fact that they passed a law to protect our children from the most vulnerable position that they can be in, and our argument is, well, what if the teacher goes crazy? That hasn't happened. So you know what I'm saying? So
it's not about when they go crazy. It's about like when you're stressed in a high stress situation, you're going to make mistakes because you're not trained for it.
I agree.
I'm not saying you shouldn't have. I did say you should have them, but people have to be trained. The setting has to be real. People have to take it seriously. If they're not going to take it seriously, innocent kids are going to get hurt. And if that's the risk we saying we want to take because we want to make sure everybody's okay, then that's fine. But we got to know what comes with these things. Every action has a reaction, and we have to understand what's going to happen.
I absolutely agree with you. But real quick, but the thing is that they're not just going to give it. They're not just going to allow any and everybody to do it. Realistically, if it has to get approved by 4 different people, they're not just going to allow somebody that doesn't have the instant response, much rather than a flight response. They're not going to give that person, you know what I'm saying, the opportunity to do that. So
I'm glad you feel so positive about our law enforcement. I feel the opposite. So go ahead.
Well, no, I agree. I mean, the same administration that's against it, they just gave $96 billion to other countries, much rather than investing that into our schools to make it safer. So I agree with you, but we got to do something. You know what I'm saying? What we've been doing hasn't been working. So what do you do next?